My name is Rachel Donovan. I'm 34 years old, and I know exactly what humiliation tastes like. The metallic sting of your father's hand across your face in front of 60 people you once called family. But worse, much worse, is the sound that came after. Not gasps, not silence, applause. It started with my sister. One deliberate clap, slow and sharp, like she was signaling the others. Then came the ripple, measured, polite, complicit. They clapped, like I'd finally done what they always expected me to do, break. Vera didn't look away when our father hit me. She smiled. It was a family celebration, they said. A toast to legacy? A gathering to honor all we'd built. But that was a lie. What they really built was a script, and the only thing I did wrong was step off it. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I walked out with my cheek burning and my spine intact. I drove 2 hours in silence, watching the sun dip behind the tree line like it couldn't bear to look me in the eye. When I got home, I made one call. Just one. And everything they thought they'd taken, my silence, my name, my place, started slipping through their fingers. They thought the worst part was done, that I'd disappear the way they wanted me to. What they didn't know was this. I never planned to fight them. I only planned to finish what they started. Before you hear the whole story behind that moment, if you've ever been abandoned, hurt by your own family, and still forced to smile through it, leave a comment. I'm not telling this to complain, but because maybe somewhere you felt what I felt. Now, let me take you back to where it all truly began. It came on a Tuesday. I remember because the dog had just knocked over his water bowl for the 3rd time that week, and I was kneeling on the kitchen floor, towel in hand, when my phone lit up. The subject line read, Donovan Family Legacy Celebration, 10 Years of Growth. No. Hi Rachel. No dear family member. Just a blocky serif font and a signature line from Vera and Wendell, like it was a real estate flyer. Not a message from my own sister. I stared at the screen for longer than I should have, not because it hurt, though it did, but because I kept waiting for something more. A PS, a line that said, hope you can come. Instead, there was just the address, the date, and the implication, show up or stay forgotten. I hadn't spoken to Vera in months. After the way she brushed off my last call about the cabin maintenance, I stopped trying, but I called her anyway. She picked up on the second ring, her voice bright and unbothered, like she was pouring a mimosa poolside. Rachel, oh my God, were your ears burning? I was just talking about you. I didn't return the energy. Got your invitation? Didn't see my name. She let out a short laugh, airy and dismissive. Totally a formatting thing. Those invite templates are awful. You know how it is. Do I? She steamrolled right past the question. It's nothing fancy, just a backyard thing. Food, some speeches, you know, family love and all that. Family, love. I didn't say much more. We exchanged a few pleasantries before I hung up. I could have said no, should have, but I didn't. Instead, I spent Thursday evening making a photo collage. Ver's kids as toddlers, our parents before the bitterness set in one old picture of the two of us in high school arms, looped like we didn't know how far apart we'd grow. I boxed it, carefully layered tissue between the frames, added a pillow my mother sewed years ago, cross-stitched with flowers, the kind of delicate work her hands haven't been steady enough to do in over a decade. It had sat in my guest room, untouched. I thought maybe, just maybe, someone would care. On Saturday morning, I loaded the car. Finn, my shepherd mix, jumped into the passenger seat without hesitation, head out the window before we left the driveway. He always knew when I was holding something I hadn't named yet. The drive to Charlotte was long but quiet. The closer we got, the tighter my grip on the wheel. I didn't have a plan. I just had a sinking feeling I'd packed more than a box and a dog. I'd packed all the pieces they pretended no longer existed. Vera's house sat on a cul-de-sac where everything looked copy-pasted. Same beige vinyl siding, same trimmed hedges, same flags fluttering on identical mailboxes. There were already rows of cars along the curb when I pulled in. I parked 2 blocks down and walked the rest of the way with a gift box in my arms, nodding at a few strangers standing outside. None of them nodded back. The backyard had been dressed like a wedding that didn't quite believe in intimacy. White tents, mason jars, with cut flower string lights arching above rental tables. A young woman I didn't recognize stood at the welcome station. She handed me a plastic badge with a number printed on it. Hi, guest number 21. Welcome, I blinked. I'm Rachel, Vera's sister. Her smile faltered. Oh, sorry, we just used the list we were given. Of course they had. I slipped the badge into my bag without another word. The conversations swirled around me like smoke softball leagues, orthodontist referrals, whose kid got into what charter school. No one looked up when I walked past. No one said my name. Then I saw the photo wall, 10 feet wide, backlit with fairy lights. It read 10 years of Donovan legacy. There were dozens of pictures. Vera's wedding, her children's birthdays, Dad fishing with Wendell, Mom holding a pie I had baked but cropped so only the crust showed. I scanned every inch of that wall for a sliver of myself. I wasn't there, not once. I turned and stepped back instinctively, bumping into a woman near the drinks. She looked at me and asked, "Are you one of the cousins?" I smiled, not kindly. "No, I'm the sister." Her expression stiffened. Then she nodded like she'd made a mistake she wasn't willing to admit. I placed the gift on the table near the bar. Moments later, a teenage boy swept by and nudged it beneath the tablecloth. Out of sight, I found my mother by the lemonade station. "Hi, Mom." She gave me a once-over. "You made it." No hug, no smile, just an eye-roll glance toward the rest of the yard. Dad appeared beside her. "Rachel," he said, flat and efficient, like reading a name off a clipboard. He reached for a soda without making eye contact. No one asked how I was. No one asked anything at all. By the time dinner was served, I was seated at a plastic folding table, shoved behind the grill tent next to a speaker stand and just a few feet from the portable restroom. Every speech came and went without mention of me. My badge number never changed. I smiled when I was supposed to. I clapped on cue, but something inside me was curling in on itself. Not because I was surprised, because I finally understood they hadn't just forgotten me. They had erased me. The sun had just begun to dip when Vera stood and tapped her wineglass. The chime rang out like a bell at a school assembly. Sharp, practiced, purposeful, the tablecloths fluttered in the soft breeze. And for a moment it almost looked like joy. Almost. Aya was seated near the back, half in shadow, half in steam from the buffet trays. The portable toilet behind me gave off a faint chemical scent that clung to the air like insult. I wasn't meant to be seen, only tolerated. "Thank you all for being here," Vera began, her voice smooth, elevated, perfectly modulated for a microphone she didn't need. "It means the world to our family to have you celebrate 10 beautiful years of growth, togetherness, and above all, legacy. Legacy." They always loved that word. It made theft sound poetic. She praised our parents, toasted Wendell's new business, even thanked their children for giving us a future worth building for. Then she turned. "There's one more thing," she said. Her eyes landed on me, and her smile stretched like taffy, bright, tight, brittle. "Rachel, would you mind joining us for a moment?" Conversations quieted. Heads turned. I stood slowly, my hands clammy against the cold glass of water I'd been holding. I walked toward the center, unsure why my legs felt like anchors. Vera placed a hand gently on my back, like she was guiding me toward a medal ceremony. Then, with her eyes on the crowd, she said, "Rachel has a beautiful cabin in the Rockies. Some of you have seen it in pictures. It's the perfect getaway. Peaceful, historic, rooted in nature." There was a murmur of agreement. Someone even clapped once. She looked at me then, and I knew we've been dreaming of creating a space where the kids could grow up with the same traditions we were raised on, a family legacy lodge. And we thought, what better place than Rachel's cabin? A pause just long enough for the idea to bloom like poison. "She's always been generous," Vera added, her tone syrupy now. "And we know she'd love to see that place become part of the Donovan legacy." I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. Then my mother's voice cut in from the first row. "It's not like you need it, sweetie. You don't have a family." It wasn't said with spite. It was said like arithmetic, something factual. I felt the silence first. Tight, suspended, all those faces turned to me like I was the final piece in a ceremony they'd already decided on. "No," I said. It wasn't loud, but it was final. Ver's eyes blinked. My father's brow furrowed. My mother tilted her head. "It's not yours," I said to Vera. "And it never will be. That should have been the end." But I heard the footsteps before I saw him. Dad, walking up from the back, slow and deliberate, like he'd been waiting for this moment. He stopped in front of me. "You've always been ungrateful," he muttered too close. Then his hand came down across my face, a clean, practiced motion. The crack echoed louder than any applause. Or so I thought, until the clapping began. Vera, one clap, then another, then others joined, unsure, but eager to follow. It spread like rot. My mother didn't flinch. "That's why you'll die alone," she said. "You're just a barren waste." I didn't respond. I didn't cry. I just turned back toward my empty table. And I remembered to breathe. I don't remember the goodbyes. I don't remember who gave the final toast or if dessert was even served. I just know that no one stopped me when I walked away. Not Vera, not my parents, not even the woman at the welcome table who had fumbled my name hours earlier. I carried nothing with me except the sting in my cheek and the cold clarity settling in my chest like dry ice. The sun had dropped behind the ridge by the time I reached my car. I sat behind the wheel for a moment, both hands gripping the leather like it might steady me. Finn shifted in the back seat, but didn't whine. He knew this silence. He'd seen it before. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just drove. No music, no window cracked, just the sound of tires against highway and the hum of breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. Trees blurred past the glass in long muted streaks. Somewhere along the way, I whispered, remember this. Not as a vow, just as instruction. When I got home, I left the wrapped gift in the trunk, the photo collage, the pillow my mother once made. I didn't even look at it. Inside the cabin was dark and still, the kind of still that doesn't ask questions. I hung up my coat, fed Finn, and walked into the kitchen with deliberate hands. I removed my earrings one by one, placing them in the ceramic dish by the sink, then turned on the faucet and let the cold water run. It soothed the swelling, but not the bruise beneath it. That one was deeper, older. I stared at my reflection. The cheek was red, sure, but it was the expression that startled me. Not shock, not devastation, just stillness. Like something inside me had stopped moving and wasn't in any hurry to start again. My phone buzzed on the counter. One name lit the screen. Ariane Wolf. Not a friend, not family, my attorney. I answered on the second ring. Rachel. Her voice was soft but alert. Are you okay? I need to talk, I said. About legal protections. My property? My name? She didn't hesitate. Tell me everything. We spoke for 30 minutes. Maybe more. I don't remember her exact words, only the sensation of lines being drawn, steps being laid like stones across a wide, cold river. By the time I hung up, I had a plan. Not for revenge, not even for justice, just for truth. They had written their story tonight. Neat, rehearsed, brutal, and I was done playing the role they gave me. It was time to change the ending. I didn't sleep that night, not from adrenaline, not from fear, but from focus, the kind that arrives only after something has cracked open and refuses to be patched. At sunrise, I powered up my laptop and opened a folder I hadn't touched in over a year. Family Finance, Do Not Delete. Inside were dozens of PDFs, bank statements, scanned checks, Venmo receipts, proof that I had covered medical bills, utility shortfalls, a car down payment. Vera once called just a bridge until my next sponsorship cleared. Every file was labeled. Every favor had a date. Then I opened the cabin transfer agreement. Vera had emailed it 2 years ago. A casual draft, she'd said, for estate clarity. My name typed in plain font. Her name in bold as the new owner. I never signed it, but seeing it again now made my stomach knot. I called Ariadne. There's more. I told her old documents, a draft deed transfer, and a medical account opened in my mother's name after she was already diagnosed with cognitive decline. She went quiet. Then we need to establish a paper trail, and you need to back up everything digitally and physically. I did a fireproof lock, a cloud drive, a spreadsheet labeled Kalin Family Evidence. I wasn't plotting a battle. I was documenting a crime. That afternoon, I checked the security camera logs from the cabin. I'd installed them last winter after a break-in scare. The recordings were still intact. One clip caught my breath. Mid-coffee, Vera and Lushan, her husband, pulling into the driveway unannounced, stepping onto my porch with a third man, a mobile notary. Vera used the spare key. I watched them walk into my kitchen, place papers on the counter, gesture toward the dining table. The notary opened his case. Lushan signed. Then Vera. They left 10 minutes later. No message, no call, just entitlement. I downloaded the footage, labeled it unauthorized entry and notary fraud, and emailed it to Ariadne. 10 minutes later, she replied, they've crossed the line. This is trespassing and attempted document forgery. I'm forwarding this to the State Bar and Secretary of State's office, and I know a reporter who specializes in inheritance abuse cases. Quiet, thorough, discreet. That night, as I was logging the footage into my spreadsheet, I received a text from an unknown number. No name, just a sentence. You should be ashamed. You're ruining your family. I stared at the message. Then I opened the clip of the slap. 30 seconds long, my face mid-turn, Vera's clapping, the guests watching unmoved. I posted it, no caption, no hashtags, just truth. The silence lasted 6 hours. Then the fire started. Comments poured in. Some stunned, some furious, some too familiar. My sister did this to me. They called me ungrateful, too. I was erased after I said no. By morning, the video had 500,000 views, and Vera's name was trending, not because of who she pretended to be, but because of who she really was when she thought no one would ever see. By noon, Vera's blog had gone private. Her influencer page was scrubbed of all family legacy content. One of her sponsors issued a quiet statement. We have paused collaboration with Mrs. Blackwood pending legal clarification. The fallout wasn't loud, but it was steady and irreversible. I didn't post a word. I didn't need to. The video of the slap, just 30 seconds long, had crossed 700,000 views by morning. Comments stacked like bricks. She clapped, "This is abuse, not tradition. Reminds me of my own mother." Other users dug deeper. They found old posts where Vera bragged about the cabin, captioned as our future family lodge. Screenshots of my wire transfers started circulating. Someone even found the draft deed transfer, unsigned but undeniable. Meanwhile, my inbox filled with everything from support to vitriol. You're making something out of nothing. Why now? You always needed attention. I didn't answer any of them until Wendell messaged. You're destroying this family. I replied with a single image. The forged notary document beside my actual signature. No words, just fact. Then my phone rang. Rachel, my father's voice was low-clipped. What are you doing? You hit me, I said in front of 60 people. And no one stopped you. A pause. You made your choice that night. Now I'm making mine. He hung up. I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel triumph. Just stillness. A clean, necessary quiet. That afternoon, Ariadne called. The IRS froze. Vera's filings. The state AG is opening a financial misconduct inquiry. A PS has confirmed prior reports about your mother's accounts. And one more thing, Lucian's notary license is under review. I exhaled, slow and deep. That evening, Vera went live. Sitting in a perfectly curated living room, she looked fragile in a way I no longer believed. She's always been distant, Vera said. We tried to include her, but some people don't know how to accept love. The comments didn't buy it. They posted screenshots, receipts, medical bills, the slap, the slow, deliberate applause. I didn't watch the whole stream, just the first few seconds, enough to know she was playing for sympathy, not truth. Let her, because the truth wasn't mine to push anymore. It had a voice of its own now, and it was louder than any apology she'd ever make. 3 weeks passed, not a call, not an apology, just silence. The kind that didn't ache anymore, the kind that felt earned. The cabin was quiet, even in the wind. Finn had stopped pacing near the door. I had stopped checking my phone. The last message I received was from the county clerk, confirmation of my sole legal ownership. Notarized, filed, indexed. No more threats, no more gray areas. Ariadne sent a one-line text. It's done. Vera's tax filings had been flagged. Wendell was under investigation for misuse of our mother's accounts. The fine alone could have paid off the entire cabin. My mother was transferred to a state-run care facility. I was listed as next of kin. They asked if I'd like to visit. I didn't say no. I just mailed a package. Inside was the embroidered pillow she made when I was 16. The one I brought to the party? I included a note. This was always yours and mine. I just stopped believing that mattered. I didn't expect anyone to reply. I didn't need them to. That weekend, 3 women arrived at the cabin, widows' daughters, mothers all rebuilding from their own quiet erasers. We hiked, we cried, we baked bread, we didn't swap war stories. We didn't need to. The silence between us carried more than words ever could. I wasn't running anymore. I wasn't proving anything. I wasn't waiting to be seen, and I wasn't angry, not even with Vera, because what they broke wasn't me. It was the story they told about me. And now I'd stopped protecting it. Late one evening, I sat alone on the porch, Finn curled at my feet, stars pushing through a soft Carolina sky. I opened my journal and wrote one line. Sometimes survival isn't loud. Sometimes it's just refusing to disappear. And for the first time in years, I believed it completely, quietly, and without permission.